Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to do something actually really fun. We're going to take these massive, sometimes intimidating macroeconomic theories and ground them right into the everyday reality of the stuff you're carrying with you right now. We're talking about the geography of your stuff, literally mapping the journey from the bottom of your backpack all the way out to the vast, interconnected web of the global economy.
So let's just jump right in. I want you to literally check the tag on your shirt, or maybe pull something out of your bag or your wallet right now. Just find that label that tells you where it was manufactured. Seriously, take a quick second and look. What's it say?
Chances are, you're looking at names like China, India, Taiwan, or Japan, right? And this simple little exercise perfectly sets up our first big reality check: spatial distribution. Just by checking where our everyday stuff comes from, we can literally map out the manufacturing hubs of the entire world, starting right from our own pockets.
Section 1. Shifting global manufacturing hubs. Why exactly is East and Southeast Asia the undeniable factory of the world? Well, it's fascinating because there's this really stark contrast in where specific things get made. On one hand, you've got massive, sweeping production in China, which is often driven by cheaper labor and fewer regulations. But then, for those highly sensitive goods, like the incredibly complex microchips inside your phone, companies look straight to places like Taiwan or Japan. They absolutely need highly educated personnel and super strict IP protections to make sure that sensitive digital tech doesn't get copied.
Section 2. The German manufacturing squeeze.
But, global production isn't just an Asian story. We really have to zoom out and look at the intense pressures mounting on traditional European powerhouses, like Germany. Look, manufacturing takes a staggering amount of energy. And between the sudden loss of cheap Russian gas due to the geopolitical situation, plus a rapid internal push towards green energy, Germany had to pivot hard. They're now buying liquefied natural gas from the US and Qatar, which is way more expensive. That completely squeezes profit margins. And unfortunately, it's forcing some of those historic German factories to either downsize or just close their doors for good.
Section 3. The three economic sectors.
To really get a handle on why these hubs are shifting around, we've got to break human employment down into three basic categories. We start with the primary sector. This is basically any job where you pull a product directly out of nature. Think raw materials, straight from the earth or the sea. Farmers, fishermen, miners, they're all right here in the primary sector, literally extracting the foundation of the entire global economy.
Then, moving up the chain, we've got the secondary sector. This is where you take all those raw materials and actually build them into physical things. It could be making just one tiny part, like the little metal spring inside your pen, or it could be the final assembly line putting the whole shebang together. Basically, this is your classic traditional factory manufacturing.
And finally, we hit the tertiary sector. This covers all the jobs where you're providing a service instead of making a physical good. We're talking everyone from retail workers, bankers, and lawyers, right up to politicians, and yeah, even the teacher of the geography class this source material is based on. If you're moving money around or spreading knowledge, if it's a service, boom, it's in the tertiary sector.
Now, for a really long time, traditional development theory basically said that a country had to progress chronologically through these exact stages to become fully developed. The whole idea was you start out heavily in the primary extraction sector, then you industrialize and build up your secondary manufacturing sector, and eventually you mature into a tertiary service economy. It's a very step-by-step framework, mostly based on how Europe and North America historically developed.
Section 4. The core-periphery model.
And that evolutionary timeline leads us right into this crucial framework geographers use to classify the economic muscle of nations today. It all boils down to a pretty stark contrast between core and periphery countries. Your core countries, places like the US or the UK, they're heavily service-based. We're talking 60 to 100% of their workforce totally locked into that tertiary sector. But on the flip side, periphery countries like Bangladesh might have over 20% of their people still working in the primary sector. They're the ones exporting the cheap raw materials and the cheap labor that make the clothes and the backpacks we just talked about. They essentially fuel the economies of the core.
Section 5. The rule breakers, Brazil and Russia.
But it's macroeconomics. There are always these absolutely fascinating anomalies. Not everybody fits neatly into these boxes. Take the rule breakers, for instance. Countries like Brazil and Russia have incredibly high primary sector employment, but they definitely do not fit that standard periphery mold. Why? It's all about the massive value of what they're digging up. While a standard periphery nation might export cheap wheat or fish, Brazil and Russia are exporting huge amounts of oil, gas, gold, really high-value stuff. That generates so much wealth that it pulls them right out of the periphery category, even though they rely so heavily on raw extraction. It just totally breaks the traditional rules.
Section 6. The future AI disruption.
Okay, now let's zoom way out and look at the massive technological wildcard that could literally upend this entire geographic map. Think about it logically for a second. If the ultimate goal is for every single country on Earth to transition into a tertiary service economy, it begs a huge, glaring question. Who is actually going to manufacture our stuff? I mean, if we're all just providing services to each other, selling insurance, banking, making digital content, who exactly is making the backpacks, the pens, the chips in our phones?
Well, that answer is unfolding right in front of our eyes. We're witnessing this hyper-rapid roboticizing of manufacturing, especially in places like China. And to be clear, we are not just talking about some basic, repetitive robot arm bolting doors on an assembly line. No, we are talking about highly advanced AI systems taking over incredibly complex factory roles and even managing massive global supply chains entirely from top to bottom.
To give you a sense of just how unbelievably fast this tech disruption could happen, consider this thought from the geography teacher in our source material. He was watching his 11-year-old daughter instantly look up all this complex info about snails on a smartphone, and it hit him. If you had told him 20 years ago that we'd all just walk around with a tiny piece of glass in our pockets that held the biggest encyclopedia in human history, he would have laughed right in your face. The point is, the impossible becomes everyday reality way faster than we think.
Which leaves us with this final, kind of mind-bending thought to take away from today's explainer. As AI gets smarter and these robots become more and more autonomous, are we literally witnessing the end of traditional human manufacturing? Could artificial intelligence completely erase the need for a human-driven secondary sector within our own lifetime? It's a pretty wild thought, but it's an absolutely fascinating map to watch unfold. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the geography of everything around you.